You've been quoted as saying that Pakistan had originally trained al-Qaeda forces, and also that you regretted the decision by the Pakistani government after the 9/11 attack to side with America against what would then refer to as terrorists. What assurances have you given to President Trump that Pakistan will indeed help in the fight against terrorists, including within Pakistan, that are aligned with the Taliban? Because I believe the second in command in the Provisional Transition Commission or Council that was being considered has significant ties with the terrorist organization in Pakistan. So what kind of assurances are you willing to give?
Let me, what I said, and let me explain it in the exact context which I spoke. 1979, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. 1980-81, the Americans decided to back Pakistan, to back the freedom struggle in Afghanistan. And in 80s then, jihad was declared against the Soviets, and Muslims from all over the world were invited to participate in the jihad, means a freedom struggle for Afghanistan against the Soviets. Amongst them were Al-Qaeda. All these different organizations, Mujahideen groups, all arrived in Pakistan to defeat the Soviets in Afghanistan. And of course, Pakistan trained them, but they were funded by the Americans, by the Western countries, because all the Western countries backed the Afghan jihad. So my whole point was that then Mujahideen, who were doing, the Russians would call terrorism, but then we would call them freedom fighters. They were trained in the art of guerrilla warfare, which the Russians called terrorism. And so when the Soviets left, my whole point is that the United States also packed up and left. And we were left with the groups. So I was just explaining how come when they talk about Pakistan having these groups, this is how we ended up having the groups. If it would have been, which is what we hope now, we hope that there's a proper transition from Taliban, from when the Americans pull out of Afghanistan, we hope there's a transition to a proper political solution rather than just packing up and going as happened in 89. There will again be chaos in Afghanistan. So my whole point is that when they left, chaos happened in Afghanistan. Pakistan had the fallout. We were left with these groups, all dressed up and nowhere to go. And we were blamed in the end. After 9/11, when the same groups from Mujahideen turned into terrorists, Pakistan was blamed for it. We were given the job now to clear this up. And we ended up losing 70,000 people from 2003 onwards. And so my whole point is that either we should not have participated in the Afghan jihad. Once we had participated, then we should not have been part of the American war on terror, because they turned the people who had been trained against the Soviets and foreign occupation. When the Americans occupied Afghanistan, they turned on Pakistan.
Azim Mia and then Jahazeb of ARY. Azim Mia, please go ahead.
Mr. Prime Minister, now you have met President Trump, so he has met Modi also. He has met him on both sides, and looks like he has got a tilt towards India. So that's one option. Secretary General says that the resolutions on Kashmir were not under Chapter 7. So according to the procedure of the Secretariat, Chapter 6 resolutions are non-binding. And in all that kind of a situation, what are the options left, except appealing to the international community? Because the international community looks like that right now, in the face of Indian-American alliance, things are getting bad. So what procedures you are going to adopt, and what is your approach, and where are you heading? Thank you.
Azim, did you I begged President Trump?
No, you met President.
Oh, thanks.
You
I don't. I've never begged from anyone. I have met and I apprised President Trump exactly of the situation, and I have told him, like I have told you, the gravity of the situation. This could go serious. Look, intelligent human beings start thinking ahead. I mean, you have to think of the hope for the best, but you should be prepared for the worst. The worst scenario in this is unthinkable. Normal human beings do not think of that. And so therefore, it is my job to tell them, in my opinion, things will deteriorate. We will keep them apprised. At least we have informed the world community what's going on. And as time goes on, and I fear that this is going to end up in a massacre, at least we will be able to tell the world community. And if India blames Pakistan for this, then at least the world would know about it. Previously, it was anything that happened in India. Look, what has been going on in the past? After 9/11, you used that magic word, Islamic terrorism, and all humanitarian rights were waved aside. You could do whatever you like with the people, provided you could term them as Islamic terrorists. And this is exactly what Narendra Modi is doing. This near genocide which he's about to commit, he's blaming it on Islamic terrorism, hoping that he'll get away with it. And that's why it's important for us to communicate with the Western world and civilized world and tell them what is happening. That's why we're telling them, send your own observers and find out what's happening. If India has nothing to worry about, and guess what the excuse of shutting down, putting people under curfew and shutting them in their houses is for. Excuse it. This is for prosperity of Kashmir. This is what the Narendra Modi position is. So it's important for us to tell the world, and I know, satisfied that at least everyone knows. I've apprised all the major world leaders of the situation in Kashmir.
The follow-up question is...
No,
Azimia.
Azimia. No, there are other people who want to ask a question. Go ahead, Jazeb.
Thank you, Ambassador Malia. This is Jahazeb Ali from Airline News TV, Pakistan. Prime Minister, like President Trump, Secretary General of United Nations also offered to mediate between India and Pakistan on Kashmir issue. On Kashmir issue. So, sir,
you still have to meet him.
Sir, will you comment on the role of United Nations? I mean, United Nations also failed to implement its own resolutions for the last many years. So, in your opinion, what's the reason for that?
Thank you, Jazeb.
Ji, Jazeb, inshallah, you will see that this issue is not now going to die down. You will see in time.
Dawn, Anwar Iqbal or Masood Haider, you decide amongst the two
Anwar.
of you. Huh?
Sorry.
Ji.
I have a very brief, very simple question. You are here, met world leaders, you'll be speaking in 2 days, and you'll go back. What other options do you have now if the international community does not respond?
Look, Anwar, let's be straight about this. What options have we got apart from this? I mean, we can't attack India if, clearly that's not an option. Apart from that, we are doing everything possible. Apart from starting a war, we are doing everything possible we can. We are all the time exploring every possibility. We're making sure every world leader knows about the situation. I will be speaking on Friday as well, and I will try my best to make the world understand. And then media, I'm going to... you see, I believe that the media is very powerful. The Western media, I had meetings last night, and I realized that a lot of them already know what is going on. And so, I know what happened in Bosnia. When the ethnic cleansing of Muslims started in Bosnia, for a while the world did nothing. The media put such a pressure that eventually the world had to do something. And I believe that in Kashmir, it's exactly the same thing will happen. Even though countries are worried about their economic interests and markets, I believe that this is a much bigger issue than markets and economic interest, and eventually the world will be interested.
Let's take Hassan from the Daily Times.
Mr. Prime Minister, in the past we have seen we had General Musharraf 4-point formula and we also had a Chenab formula. What proposal would you suggest to resolve Kashmir if you were able to talk to India in the near future?
For a start, they have to lift the curfew. That's the beginning. I mean, this inhuman curfew of 50 days. The Congress party in India has commented that poor people have been shut inside for 50 days. 50 days they've... no one knows what's happening with all the prisoners, political prisoners, thousands of them.
Thank you very much.
In that formula, there was a problem. And the problem was that the third party, the most affected party, the Kashmiris, were not in the loop.
We have one last question. Go ahead.
Muhammad Ikram, Voice of America, U.S. service, we broadcast to Pashto region, Pakistan, Afghanistan. Did Trump ask you to play some role or act your role in Afghanistan? And did he told you something about to put some pressure on Taliban? And what were you told?
I'll repeat what I said. We were very surprised because the deal was about to be signed when from a tweet we found out that the deal had been broken. So what we hope is that, and what we will try and do, is to actually get back that deal to be signed. And then Pakistan will do its best to get the Taliban to talk to the Afghan government.
We're done. We're done.
Prime Minister, as we know that there is no word of disappointment in your dictionary. Really appreciate as you have conveyed Pakistan's narrative loud and clearly across the world. During these days, you have met with different head of states, including Donald Trump. Now, in your opinion, what they are thinking and how much they are convinced? If no mediation, then what next?
Look, the disappointment is not because I think that people of Kashmir, I feel that what Narendra Modi has done, he has boxed himself into a blind alley. There is nowhere for him to go from now onwards except a general massacre of people of Kashmir when the curfew is lifted. There's no other way for him to go. So I feel that from now onwards, and I know that the people of Kashmir for 30 years have been fighting for their independence, and 100,000 have lost their lives. They have lost fear of death. When a population, and you're talking about not a few thousands, 8 million people, when they lose fear of dying, and freedom becomes much more important than living a life of slavery, I don't think that he will be able to stop this now. I think the momentum will gain pace. So I'm not disappointed about where it is headed because I know that this will eventually now end up in freedom for people of Kashmir. What I'm disappointed is that for some reason, countries put economic ahead of human beings. The same climate change. Countries, because of not wanting to lose their growth rate, do not realize that what impending disaster this climate change is bringing. Neither do countries, for instance, which I'll be speaking about. This money laundering which comes from the developing world into the rich countries every year, billions and billions of dollars from poor countries moves to rich countries through corruption, ruling elites of developing world, taking the money out. And unfortunately, because if anything, the richer countries gain from it, they do not take any steps to stop it. This is a plunder of the poor countries. The poor countries are getting poorer. The rich are getting richer. And these criminals who plunder the poor countries have an easy way of parking their money, buying flats in New York and London. And that's what we want. We want the world to take notice of this. The richer countries, they should have strong money laundering laws. They should, if we can identify that money has been stolen from our countries, it should be immediately given back to us. But this is the problem, because the laws are so complicated, and if the rich countries want, they can easily tighten the laws so that it will be the biggest deterrent for these criminals in third world to take the money out.